Here you are going to see some normal movement of a blepharisma. Let me set the scale correctly. Here is the correct scaling. This organism is swimming relatively slowly right now for a blepharisma. This is prior to the beginning of a plasma experiment. Normal swimming is sometimes rather circular. Okay, you're seeing this in real time. I've started a program on the F125 called Blepharisma 11, parameters of which I will give a little bit later. Just change one thing here in the scope. This is live. The F125 is running a series of programs, and that's me adjusting the microscope slide stage. And that scale is accurate. Notice how incredibly round the organism is getting. We have 100 watts, and the SWR is 1.3, a little bit high. Let's see if we can lower that SWR a touch. I'm adjusting the NFJ. Very sensitive adjustment. There's the 80 watts, and the SWR is just below 1.2. Let's watch the overall shape of the organism. And I will adjust the focus. This is happening in real time, and here's the scale. The little square on the right is just for setting the light sensitivity of the video camera connected to the microscope. That's me moving the microscope stage. I'm going to just lower it a little bit so we get that in the center of my video camera. Right there. That looked like an attempted contraction. Now look at the lower structures changing. This is happening in real time. He is moving slightly upwards in the picture, so he seems to be capable of a little directed motion still, but the F125 is going through a series of frequencies, so you'll see. I'm going to chase him a little bit here. He is moving up on the slide. This is real time. plasma wave experiment. About just below 80 watts, SWR just below 1.2. It's a series of frequencies. The audio frequency is a square wave around 924 hertz. I think it starts at 918 and goes up, slowly approaching 924. Right now it's at 919 hertz. And we want to watch the overall shape. He is drifting up a little bit on the slide, so there may be some directed movement. We want to watch the overall shape, which now has become quite round. And then we want to watch the internal structures. If we're having an effect, we will see some of these internal structures changing. Now, if my finger looks a little blurred in the picture, it's because I had to alter the shutter speed on my video camera so we don't get a flipping. This is happening in real time. We started about 8:01, 8:02 at night. Oh, there's a big shift suddenly. See an internal, pretty dramatic shift happening there. We will follow the organism. He's suddenly moving, which is kind of surprising. Let's see what he does. Now, we might be getting a protuberance here. It seems that part of the process involves a protuberance that will stick out in the organism. Watch these internal structures carefully. Sometimes you will notice the development of additional internal spheroid structures depending on the frequency you are running. This is happening in real time, and this program's been running about 7 minutes. Now, it seems like we're getting some effect, but remember that the F125 is running through a series of frequencies. That's me moving that microscope stage. So we're not 100% sure which frequencies are the most important ones. So every 3 minutes it sends a new frequency. That frequency is around 924 hertz. I think it starts at 918 and runs up to 929. So it's something like 9 different frequencies, 3 minutes each. It's a 27-minute program. Now he's not moving too much. That's usually a sign that we're having an effect. We've been told that 924 hertz is the key frequency. Of course, that is an audio range frequency which is fed into, rather amplitude modulates a radio carrier frequency. Radio carrier frequency is about 27 megahertz. And to that I added a second now watch carefully internally. We seem to be getting some dissolving granulation in here. We'll follow this organism as he continues to move here. Kind of surprising me that he is capable of movement. Which might mean that we don't have the right frequency, but the internal structures look pretty different here now. to keep your eye on the MFJ tuner. Now it's at 90 watts, 1.2 SWR. It does shift as the amplitude, as the frequency changes. We're at 921 hertz. So apparently we've run 3 or 4 frequencies already and have not completely devitalized this particular organism. But you see a lot of internal activity here. I'll adjust the focus a little bit and see what we can pick up on the screen. It looks like there's a lot of little spheroids forming within there. There's certainly a number of small spheroids forming where we didn't see that before. We'll see if, as we approach 924 hertz, it becomes any more dramatic. This is happening in real time. It's been running about 10 minutes or so, 11 minutes. There's a better focus in the microscope. 90 watts, 1.2 SWR. Frequency is currently 922 hertz. By the way, there's a second RF carrier in there in this program, and that is 11 times 924 hertz. You can calculate that. It's almost too big to fit on the computer screen here. And we'll just patiently watch. This is happening in real time. This is an Olympus BX60 microscope. You see a little bit of movement here. And this is with the 10x objective. And the scale you're seeing in the picture is accurate. This is me chasing a little bit on the microscope just to keep the organism centered in our picture. There we go. He's drifting upwards a little bit. Adjust the focus a little bit. That's me adjusting the microscope again. Since he's swimming upwards, I'll move the shot. I'm moving the microscope stage a little bit. Oh, there's an interesting change in shape. Now watch carefully the changes in the overall shape. 90 watts SWR is just a little over 1.2. We're at 922 hertz. And we're seeing some big changes in shape here. I'll center that a little bit more on the camera. Here we are. watch the internal structures as we seem to be getting a pretty good effect here now. That's me adjusting the microscope stage, so now I'll leave it steady. This is happening in real time, and now you see from the outer shape it's really a completely different shape now. It's been very badly distorted, and we'll see what happens to the internal structures. If you look carefully, you can see a lot of movement inside here. We're at 90 watts, a little over 1.2 on the SWR. We're at 923 hertz. We are getting a slight beating effect in the plasma. And now we're seeing a shape change here, a little distension. Here's a good focus. And now you begin to see quite a few of these spheroid shapes that will happen. And here's a huge, what used to be a very clear circular vacuole, now it's just a giant open rectangular space. The exposure in the camera looks a little light here. He is drifting a little to the right, so I'm going to correct that. Let me just adjust this a little bit. We should be getting very close now. Yeah, he's slightly drifting to the right. This is me adjusting the microscope. And look how huge this internal vacuole has become. And other completely different exaggerated shapes. There's a kind of a strange shadow here, I don't know what that is. We have 95 watts, almost 100 watts. SWR wavering slightly, 1.2 plus. We're now at 924 hertz. This is said to be the target frequency for this organism. This experiment has been running for about 18 minutes. Yep, about 18 minutes. And he is really badly misshapen now. I'm going to experiment with the focus a little bit. You'll see some different highlights of the organism. He's essentially transparent, so we can look down through him. We're now at 924 hertz. It's very interesting. Almost looks like there's a hole in the center of it that's opened up. I don't know if it's a hole in the cell membrane. It's amazing. It looks like almost like a little vortex. Notice the external shape change. You're getting a shape change now. 924 hertz, 90 watts, 1.2 SWR, 924 hertz. That may indeed be the primary target frequency as we have been advised. I'm going to move the microscope stage just a little bit. Now you notice that he's so big now that I can't hardly fit him onto the video screen here. This is me adjusting the microscope stage a little bit. We'll center him in the picture. He's really grown very large. I'm adjusting the focus. This is real time. This experiment has been running now for about 19 minutes, and a tremendous change in overall shape, tremendous disintegration here of the internal structures. the addition of numerous spheroid structures, small, medium, and large, that were not there. This is happening in real time. You do see what I believe is called plasma streaming, which is normal in the organism, but we're seeing vast open spaces opening up here. I think if you go back and watch the beginning of this video, you'll see this organism looks dramatically different than what you're seeing right now. It's been so distended and stretched out, it's almost unrecognizable. It looks more like an amoeba than a blepharisma. $95 watts, SWR 1.25. Now we're at 925 hertz. I'm going to adjust the microscope and take a wider view. Let's switch over to the 4X lens. If I can do that without disturbing the plasma too much. So we're going to go to the 4X objective and refocus. There is something, oh, there's another little something that's not part of our organism causing the shadow there, at a different height in the slide. Okay, so here's our blepharisma. I'm trying to focus. It's pretty hard actually. There's almost too much light. Let's see if I dim the light a little bit, if it gets a little easier. It's hard to focus this because it's so okay. It's sort of falling apart here and becoming rather amorphous. That's the correct scale, 100 micrometers here. And no movement. Let's go back to the 10x objective. There's the 10x. And let me adjust that. Focus. There you go. And now you see it's pretty dramatic. This blepharisma is just about totally dissolved. It really resembles more like an amoeba than anything else now. That scale is correct, and he's just a huge... Let's scan down to some other parts and see what we can pick up. There was a little change in the shape here in the center. Let's see what the top looks like. I think this is more a case of the organism falling apart. I don't believe it's directed motion. I could be wrong. Oh, something's happening. Dramatic. Look at this. There's a dramatic internal rushing. Oh, and there's a blister forming right here. His cell membrane has broken. We're at 90 watts, SWR 1.2. The frequency is 926. 926 hertz. And let's see if we can get a closer look. This organism is really badly dissolved. And look, the cell membrane I believe has ruptured, no? It sure looks like it's, yep, it's flowing out. This is actually a first for me. Let me see if I can zoom in on that rupture area. I believe he's releasing his contents there. And this is typically what you see is by the time you get to an advanced stage of this experiment. This, let's see if it's still running. We're at 926 hertz. There's only 1 minute left. At the end of the 27 minutes, where we go through 9 different frequencies, searching for the most important frequency, the organism is really dissolved and devitalized. And here I believe he's emptying out on the slide. And I'm going to stop the video here. This has been a live devitalization of a blepharisma. Now our next goal would be to find 1 or 2 frequencies which would do this right away. Now I'm scanning the slide to see if any other organisms were affected, and I found this one. And he's so incredibly round, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that's a blepharisma. That would be typical, that they would be distorted into this round shape. There still is a cilia motion down there. Let me change the scale, because this must have been a smaller one. This is now accurate scale, so he's smaller than the other one we videotaped. Looks more like the moon than an active blepharisma. Fascinating. There he's gonna. Now the plasma wave is off, by the way. This is a result of the experiment. See, the plasma wave's off. Maybe he's waking up. Interesting. Here's yet another organism on the slide, and he seems also very affected. The plasma light is off right now. There is a lot of cilia movement along this edge, but he's quite round and seems to have suffered some effects of the experiment. Let me check the scale there. The scale is accurate, so we may be seeing widespread effects on this one slide. Now, one of the concerns you have is, were the organisms simply squished by the cover slip, or were they dehydrated? So I will make another slip and make sure, but there are other small organisms swimming around. Let's see if I can show you a few. There's another blepharisma that was affected, but there you can see a little tiny guy swimming around. Let's see if we see any clusters. Here's a little group of small organisms swimming around, but still, it could be that the water. Here's a good cluster of organisms swimming around. Let me focus that for you. I'm doing this in real time here. Oops. Here we go. And there's one. There's a blepharisma that was kind of small and was not terribly affected, but he's not moving. And so there is some water in the slide, or these guys wouldn't be swimming around. Of course, you could say maybe it's not deep enough for the blepharisma. So we'll run another slide and see, and run the experiment again.